Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to get started for our webinar. I am Robin Merritt. I'm an Executive Vice President at Axiom, and we are going to have a wonderful webinar for you. I've got two special guests with me. I have our President CEO with us today, Bob Clements, and I have one of our Vice Presidents, Michael Spataro. So what are you going to learn today? Why are you here? Why did you join us? I think that's probably the question everybody was interested in when you see the future of forecasting and scheduling. I mean, the last 10 months, look, we've been in the moment. We have been wondering and worrying about what happens at this moment and what happens tomorrow, but that's about as much as the future was, right? So all of a sudden, we now need to start thinking about what is about to happen to us in 2021, 2022. How have things changed forever? How have they changed for a short term? And when do you start reinventing yourself? So with that, I'd like to bring our CEO, Bob, come on in with us today. And let's talk about where we have been and where we're going. And then this framework that we've been really working with our customers on. And for all of you that are on with us right now, don't feel that if you're brand new to this, you don't feel you need to take down every word that we're about to go through, because based on the email you sent us, we are going to send you this information and it'll be in a blog post for you, so you'll have everything in front of you. And if you've joined us before, you know that we've spoken about the recovery framework and the different phases that you're going through. And so Bob, why don't you help ground us into maybe where we are, where we're going, and what we're going to talk about for this webinar when it comes to the framework. And you know what, I'll give you a bit of a slide here so everybody can understand where that what that looks like. So
give us a bit of a graphic. Yeah. When we started, when we all entered the pandemic and most nations faced a stay-at-home order, non-essential retailers were shut down, we started working with our thought leaders and with our clients to develop what we've been referring to as the retail recovery framework. And it really represented three phases of the pandemic. The first was the react phase, which was really what happened both as non-essential retailers reopened, as well as essential retailers started settling down after the panic buying that happened kind of in late March and through April. The react phase really took us into the summer as we were reacting to what the new world was, what the new now was, as we navigated reopening our stores, introducing curbside pickup, doing much more e-commerce and ship from store than we ever had before. As we then move into the refocus phase, it was about operationalizing all those things that we learned, evolving those things that we learned during the react phase, and really focusing on rebuilding our business and driving to having the best holiday as possible. Now, if you joined us for our last webinar, we talked about forecasting and scheduling in our last webinar. And really what we were talking about is how to navigate the next kind of this refocus phase, how to leverage the tools that we have to help create that best holiday that we could to get us through that the recovery, if you will. Now, as we start to, as we're just a few weeks away from Christmas, and we can start thinking about that reinvent phase. We start thinking about what happens next, because as we start getting past the holiday and as we start getting into our new calendar year and even the new fiscal year, we start thinking about, okay, how can we rethink what we've been doing in our stores? And related to what we're talking about here today, how can we rethink what we're doing in workforce management to help us with our future? Because there's a few things that we do know about the future. Number one is that as we get into the new year, we will have been living with COVID-19 for more than a year. And while we might find ourselves kind of regionally and locally dealing with what maybe in extreme cases stay-at-home orders, but limited capacity, health and safety and whatnot, that's going to continue on, and we're going to find ourselves dipping back into that react phase locally. But as we start thinking ahead, we can also start thinking about how are our stores going to look differently. And this is an ongoing conversation that we've been having with customers over the last couple of months and continue to have as we start to reevaluate our workforce management strategies, as we start thinking about what does it look like once a vaccine arrives and even beyond? And so today's focus is really about that future. It's about workforce management and really forecasting and scheduling and what that future looks like.
Okay, great. And so to that point, you know, I think the interesting thing is we move faster between react and refocus. Right now, we have a, we're not as, I guess, nervous, or we're kind of like, okay, what's the next thing we're going to have to deal with, right? So we're moving faster so that the reinvent phase feels real now. I think when we first started talking about the framework, this reinvent phase felt so far off when we would talk with our customers. And now, here we are, and we get to talk about the future, which I think is pretty exciting because I feel like we're a little fatigued. We really just want to know what's out there. What are we going to be building in the future? Because we're going to make it through. We really are. And when we get to the other side, what is that? What are we going to look like? So Michael, I guess Bob has told us about, you know, the phases and how we're going to move into reinvent. So what should we all be thinking about when we're talking about reinventing? Is this technology? Like, what's the answer here for us in workforce management?
Well, you know, it's interesting. It's hard to say it's a great time to be alive when we're going through a pandemic, but it's a great time to be alive. COVID has taught us a lot of, you know, challenging things, but at the same time, a lot of great things. And the conversations we have had internally, as well as with our retailer, several large retail customers, is really what got us here isn't going to get us where we want to be. And what we did see during the early stages of the pandemic is we had to rapidly adopt technologies that maybe have seemed a little bit out there. An example of that is contactless payment. Many retailers did not do contactless payment before COVID. And in most states, you had to provide contactless payment in order to open your doors. And we adapted to that rapidly.
Yeah, remember when we were the cool people in the store because we'd use our Apple Pay and nobody even knew what we were doing, and we thought we were super cool by putting our little phone up there. And now everybody is doing, all ages, everybody is, that's what you do, right? So it was what we thought was so cool back then, which was just 10 months ago.
Right. So when you think about that next generation to us and to our customers has always felt like that 2 to 3 to 5 year plan. Well, the next generation is really the near generation. What do I mean by that is we now need to really think about what is that next phase of workforce management, and our customers are rethinking that internally. How do I align my brands around a single strategy for workforce management, and what do I need to do differently? And then externally, are there solutions that provide that next generation capability? And there are, and those technologies really fit into 3 fundamental buckets. One is artificial intelligence, the other is machine learning, and the third is robotics. And artificial intelligence and machine learning, you may think are really new, bleeding edge technologies, but they've been around for a really long time. The difference is we now have the processing power in real time to analyze the data to help make the right decisions. And really that long-term view of the application being able to analyze what's going on, make recommendations to a manager that they need to add hours or cut hours, or these are the shifts that they need to add, or these are the shifts that they need to cut, or that these are the people that their schedules should be modified, is real, and is now. We can take advantage of those solutions. So when you look at something like artificial intelligence, it's automating a lot of the work that the managers had previously done, and it's recommending to them the right decision or executing on those right decisions. When you think about machine learning, it's really about how do I get the right sales forecast in order to get the right labor, in order to get the right schedule. So if you really think what's going to happen in the next couple of months, we're going to go in March, we're going to begin to have a forecast that has no history, because last year we were closed for 3 months.
Right.
The dynamics of machine learning is to really look at, okay, I'm going to look at last year and there's no data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the more current trend,
Right.
what has actually happened over the last couple of months, and I'll use that to create next week's forecast, which is far more intuitive than doing the gyrations that we're probably currently doing.
Yeah.
And then the third dimension is robotics and leveraging robotics to augment what we're currently doing. So in grocery stores today, you might see a robot that roves around the store, and if you ask somebody what the robot does, they'll tell you, oh, it's monitoring for spills. No, the reality is the robot is scanning every shelf, and it could see behind the can that there are no cans. Yeah. And it's putting together an order so that somebody in the back room can be refilling in real time. Those are all technologies that we really need to start thinking about. How do we take advantage of?
Well, and the last, you know, what's interesting is when you think about the wording, right? So artificial intelligence, machine learning, and robotics, it feels so, you know, like it's a future novel, right? That's out there. But when you talked about it, even when I worked in stores, in retail, we were doing what you were talking about, but it was very manual, right? We were trying to look and gather data and get the right, when do I want to send somebody home for overtime or not? When's it okay? And so this is something, it's all been around, but we finally gathered it all up. Technology's been doing it for 10 or more years. Now, like you said, we have the ability to process it, like really use the data to get the right answers.
Yeah, the perfect example that you just gave is you were machine learning and you were artificial intelligence back then, right? You couldn't process the data as rapidly to make that right decision. You know, it would have taken you a lot of analysis to make the right decision. And now we have processing that enables the application to actually do that in real time, analyze all of this data and say the right decision for you in order for me to provide the right level of service to my customer is X.
Yeah. And I love this whole near generation too, right? I think that is exactly what's upon us. What we thought used to be the future is no longer, right? It's like this, it's right in our backyard, it's ready to go. So
I think one of the struggles that you know our customers have, and again, I've talked about, we're working with large enterprise retailers today, and you know, Bob and I have had several conversations where the struggle is about how do I now internally have the conversations with my leadership to articulate the value of these new technologies, and that maybe the strategy we had a year ago around workforce management is not the same strategy we need to have going forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and to that end, Michael, you know, it's one of the things where I think that there is a significant return on investment for this type of technology that we're talking about, because so many clients that we've worked with in the past had justified their investment in workforce management and saving an hour of manager time a week, right? Because we're going to automate the forecast and schedule, we're going to save time. And I think that with artificial intelligence, let's remove accuracy from this discussion for a minute, but simply the automation of things like time off approvals or schedule edit approvals or whatever it might be. That's another level of automation that I think is going to return a very quick ROI to almost anybody that adopts it. The second part of that is I think there is a level of improved accuracy and intelligence. If you implement ML or AI correctly, what you end up with is a better forecast and a better schedule and a better experience that will create a return, whether it's a lower labor cost, an increase in sales, or a combination thereof. It becomes easy to justify that investment when you start following down that thread. The second thing that I find when customers engage us is sometimes our customers are, you know, not sometimes, our customers are smart people. At the end of the day, they are smart people, and they know what they're doing. But sometimes bringing us in does two things. One is it brings an outside perspective. We bring in experience from, you know, talking with other retailers like them and not like them, and others from other industries. So we can help kind of benchmark what other people are doing. The second thing, and this one sounds a little bit silly, but I think people on the phone might appreciate it, is sometimes you might be the smartest person in the room, but because you're in the room, you don't necessarily have credibility with everybody, or it's at the same level of credibility. So when you bring in somebody like Acxiom from the outside, we can kind of bring that outside voice, which sometimes helps get a message across. So those are the couple of thoughts that I have kind of around the work that we've been doing, and maybe some of the way to get this point across.
Yeah, and I think that really helps everybody on the call, because everyone is probably thinking these are great. This is, but how do I have, what are other people doing with this, and how would I use this internally? And I guess, Bob, to help them along this path as well, is there a best of breed solution, or is this really even a solution? Like, what is this?
That's a great question. And there's a lot of confusion out there right now, because everybody's talking about AI and ML, but the reality is you look from vendor to vendor to vendor, their solutions are a little bit different, and they're on different stages of maturity. So kind of backing up for a minute, you said early on, Robin and Michael, that AI and ML is not new technology, right? It's been around for a long time. We now have the horsepower available to us to make it practical, to make it commercial, if you will. And then we've had the vendors kind of fitting that into their WFM solutions. So right now, we see each vendor in the space providing some level of ML, but what we're finding is, like I said, number one, it's not all created equal. When you look at ML in one, it's not the same as ML in another. The other thing that we're finding is that ML implementation may not fit what your needs are, right? It may work great for a grocer, but it doesn't work great for a specialty retailer. And I'm just kind of talking broad strokes here. And what we're seeing more and more is kind of going back to the old days, if you will. And well, it's not that old, which is that you're gonna buy a solution from one vendor, and maybe a part of a solution from another vendor, and a part of a solution from another vendor, and you need to bring it together. So you might end up having several point solutions that now represent your workforce management system. Right back in the day, you had time and attendance, and you had scheduling, and you had different solutions for everything, and you had to integrate it all together. Then we went to kind of the best of breed, or the integrated workforce management solution, which is where we've been living for a while. And I think there's still a tremendous amount of value in it, but I think more and more we're going to see retailers and other users start to augment their primary platform with other solutions, whether it's ML or AI or mobile or something else. And that core solution, a key part of that core solution, is you've got to have an open API. You've got to be able to, because otherwise you're slapping it together and you're never going to be able to maintain it. That's where so many WFM implementations have fell down, is that integration is scotch taped together. It's costly to hold together. You have to have a robust set of APIs to be able to integrate a best of breed AI solution with your core workforce management solution.
Well, hadn't the pandemic shown to us that we have to be nimble, and your technology has to be nimble along with it? And if you're not using an open APIs, it makes it so difficult to be able to remove an integration, or bring in information that you might need, or change the integration. It's so hard to do that without open APIs.
Yeah, that is the truth. Absolutely.
I think that's part of why retailers have now started to rethink their strategy, is that need to be nimble. So the thought process of, oh, maybe I just upgrade to the next version of whatever solution I have, is now being rethought. And Bob, I do want to go back to your earlier comment. I think from an ROI perspective, the ROI around the new technologies is far more significant than maybe the ROI to implement the solution in the past has been. I think what we really need to help retailers understand is how do you justify this new investment in workforce management? And I do think it's going to come largely from artificial intelligence and machine learning, and the ability to further improve on the accuracy, further improve on the compliance, and give retailers the ability to ensure that their customer service standard is being met in every store at every moment.
Yeah. Agreed.
Now, go ahead.
If you don't mind, Robin,
Yeah.
something that's interesting, and maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but I think something that's interesting when we think about that idea of buy-in and that idea of getting the organization around it is one of the things that we've heard from several customers as we start talking to them about the future, and whether it's artificial intelligence or AI or whatever it might be. Something we often hear is, oh, we're already doing that, right? We're already using machine learning. Well, yes, you are. You're using it way over in some other part of the organization, or you are in a way that's not integrated and just affecting the data that's going into your workforce management system. It's not helping you generate a better forecast or a better schedule. It's not helping you make better decisions around labor, and so therefore you're not getting that benefit of lower labor costs, higher revenue, whatever it might be.
Right.
And I think that kind of distilling where AI is being used and how it's being used, and the difference between what we're talking about with forecasting and scheduling, I think is vital to get.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask Bob, between Michael, for you, and Bob as well. But okay, this is great information. I'm sitting on the call thinking, taking a lot of notes, even though I said you shouldn't, but you're taking notes, and you are thinking this through, getting excited about it. And then all of a sudden you just kind of hit the brick wall and go, wait a second, it sounds like it's a lot of money. It sounds like it's a lot of, there's a lot of work involved in this. How do I get buy-in from all levels, right? I have to get an expenditure for there. I have to get capital budget for this, or I have to have this conversation with the executives. But then I also have the end users I have to worry about. Like, again, I was a store manager, so telling me that your little technology knows better than me. Now, that was a long time ago. Most store managers these days understand the use of technology better than we did 20 years ago. How does this buy-in work, Michael?
Yes. So I think again, COVID has helped us in a significant way. Sure. That we've been able to adapt to these new technologies. And what it's done is open the door for this additional conversation. I do think, from a machine learning, artificial intelligence, robotics, this is not, you don't just plug it in and it works, right? It is, what decisions do I have to make? And that's one of the areas we can certainly help you with. But this is a conversation we're having with multiple retailers right now, is actually helping them to do that internal marketing around, why do I need to revisit the strategy? What are the advantages of revisiting that workforce management strategy? Oh, and by the way, what is the significant return we're going to get from looking at a new strategy? That's where these technologies are going to help you convince people that it is now time to rethink that strategy and revise my overall roadmap for workforce management. And with that, Bob, do you want to talk about, right? So I think, Robin, you had a great point. So great information, but yeah, how does Axiom help me? Where do I go from here?
Yeah, and Bob, I have a slide if you want me to. I'll put that up too, to ground us a little bit, to show.
Yeah,
don't you love the way everything works these days? I've got a display over here, I got over here. I had to make sure this side of my hair looked okay. I mean, a lot to worry about on these webinars here.
Yeah, that's why I wear my hair the way I do, as I don't need to worry about that anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, while you pull that up though, we did get a question from one of the participants asking about AI. Well, let me just read the question. Recently, many cities and states are implementing fairness laws that are impacting auto scheduling and how employers can react. Right. Any comments on how that is impacting AI scheduling and its use? So, just offhand, I think where AI and ML can help with this is in a couple of areas. So, first of all, so much of an aspect of the fairness scheduling laws is about, how do I provide, basically a certain number of hours. Like when I hire you, I'm going to tell you that you're going to work a certain number of hours. And then once I create the schedule, I'm going to create it so far in advance that and it's not going to change without your request, basically. So what AI is going to do is a couple things. One is it's going to be better at making sure that you get the number of hours that you've been promised to get, and better balancing those hours. The second thing that it's going to be able to do is because you're going to have to create that schedule further in advance, today's forecasting engines really struggle when you start going out more than just a couple of weeks, right? When you start going out more than next week, forecasting engines really start to break down. As we start thinking about ML and AI being applied to that, really the benefit's going to be that that you're going to be able to take a little bit longer view of that forecast and get a little bit more accurate. So again, it's going to help you get a better result further out, if you will.
Right.
So anyway, let me talk about that slide you just had up there for a minute, Robin, and we'll start wrapping up here. So when it comes to where to go next or what's happening next, like we've said, we've been engaged with several of our large enterprise customers to help them rethink their workforce management strategy. And to do that, we can help come in and help them assess kind of what their opportunity is to reinvent themselves and better align workforce management to their brand going forward. The second thing that we can do is we can help you understand what options are out there. Like you probably heard us talk about earlier, we're in tune with what the vendors are doing related to their future roadmap and the future of their product. So understanding kind of who's doing what in this and helping you understand kind of what solutions may be best, we can certainly help along those lines. We've talked a little bit about ROI here, but certainly building a business case, connecting costs and benefits to an ROI and into that business case is critical. So that's a third area that we can help you with. We also like to provide our clients with something that we refer to as the balanced scorecard. Now, everybody has a balanced scorecard, but our balanced scorecard is based around the concept that often when organizations implement a workforce management application or really any sort of technology, they have to build that business case up front and then they kind of forget about it later on. So a year from now, you might ask, did we achieve our business case? The balanced scorecard is really designed to help you track your progress against that business case and identify where you're not getting the business case so you can then get things back on track. And then last but not least, Axiom can help you develop your workforce management roadmap, really help you identify, not if we know what the options are and what the solution is and what the strategy is going to be and how much benefit we're going to get from it. The reality is you probably can't do everything at once. So how do you phase that information together so you get the biggest bang for the buck and you really are building a solution that makes sense for you? So hopefully that helps answer that question, Robin.
Thanks. And I was working with the displays here. It was kind of like going back and forth. So I don't know if everybody got to see the slide up. Is it up now by any chance?
No, but it's all right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's basically, again, you will get the link that'll have all of the information up together on the blog post. So we'll have all of those items that you just talked about, Bob. So again, if you can't see the slide, you can't see that we have the three of us all together saying we're here for you, and we are. So with that, we would love for you guys to join us again for our upcoming webinars. Go to our retailresponds.com page. That is all of our past blogs, all of our past webinars. You can go through and see how we came up with and work through the recovery framework. You'll see more on budgeting and forecasting and scheduling. And then again, you'll get this link for this particular webinar with all the blog information. So thank you, Michael. Thank you, Bob, for joining us today. It's fun just to talk about the future of where we might be going. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a fabulous day wherever you are.
Thank you.